Senator Sanders, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Good to be with you.
Senator, you say that you are considering running against Hillary Clinton, among other reasons, because you doubt whether or not she's willing to take on the billionaires in America. Here's what she said during a rollout in Iowa this week.
There's something wrong when hedge fund managers pay lower tax rates than nurses or the truckers that I saw on I-80 as I was driving here over the last 2 days.
Senator, don't you believe her?
Well, she's absolutely right, but it's not a question of running against Hillary Clinton or taking on Hillary Clinton. What we are seeing, Chris, right now is that for 40 years the American middle class has been disappearing. Millions of people are working longer hours for low wages, despite a huge increase in technology and productivity. And what we have seen during that period is a massive transfer of trillions of dollars from the middle class to the top 1/10 of 1% in America. Massive wealth and income inequality, where you have 99% of all new income today going to the top 1%, and the top 1/10 of 1% in America owning almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%.
If I may, you told Bloomberg that you had serious doubts about whether she was willing to take on the billionaire class. What are those doubts?
Well, that's fair. Yeah, but my point is it's not just Hillary Clinton.
Well, I'm asking about Hillary Clinton, though, sir.
Well, the answer is, if I can, please. The answer is that I think that is the fight that we have to wage if we're going to save the middle class. And I do have doubts about whether Hillary Clinton or whether any Republican candidate out there is prepared to take on the big money interests who control so much of our economy and, as a result of Citizens United, our political process as well.
But Clinton says that she wants to be the champion of the middle class. Again, here she is in Iowa this week.
The deck is still stacked in favor of those already at the top. And there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong when CEOs make 300 times more than the typical worker.
What does Senator Clinton or Secretary Clinton need to do, Senator, to persuade you that she's the one to take on this fight?
Well, what she said is absolutely right. I mean, I think from a moral issue, CEOs should not be making, whether it's 270 or 300 times more than their workers are making. But what we need to do, Chris, is to understand that in America, if we're going to be successful in taking on the billionaire class, we need a strong national grassroots movement. And what the Secretary have to convince the American people is, in fact, based on her past record and her views today, that she is going to break up the major banks on Wall Street, that she is going to ask the wealthiest people in this country to start paying their fair share of taxes, that she's going to end the abomination of major corporations making billions of dollars, stashing their money in the Cayman Islands, and not paying a nickel in federal income tax. That, in fact, she is prepared to deal with our disastrous trade policies.
Let me ask you about the trade policy, because back when she was Secretary of State, Clinton said she favored a trade deal with our 11 Pacific partners and fast-track authority to make that happen. That's something Congress is now considering. Now Secretary Clinton says she wants to wait and see. Is that an issue for you vis-a-vis Secretary Clinton?
Oh, Chris, you're looking at a guy who was in the House and in the Senate, voted against all of these terrible trade agreements, NAFTA, CAFTA, permanent normal trade relations with China. As I'm sure you'll remember, all of the big money interests, and by the way, Republicans and Democrats, they say, oh, well, we're going to create all of these jobs by having a trade agreement with China. Well, the answer is they were wrong, wrong, wrong. Over the years, we have lost millions of decent-paying jobs. These trade agreements have forced wages down in America, so the average worker in America today is working longer hours for lower wages.
So is that a litmus test for you, sir?
I don't have to wait and see.
Is that a litmus test?
This trade,
is that a litmus test for you to see whether or not Clinton is going to come out against the TPP?
Well, I know where my view is. I hope very much the Secretary comes out against it. I think we do not need to send more jobs to low-wage countries. I think corporate America's got to start investing in this country and create decent-paying jobs here.
Let me talk to you about Bernie Sanders now, not Hillary Clinton. You call yourself a Democrat socialist, and one of the things that you favor is a single-payer healthcare system, but that has, in effect, fizzled in your own state of Vermont, and I want to talk about why. When it turned out that single payer would have meant 11.5% increase in taxes on all businesses and a 9.5% tax hike on individuals, the Democratic governor of Vermont dropped the plan as unfeasible. This is in your own state of Vermont. They said, we just can't afford the single payer.
Well, Chris, let's take a look at what's going on around the world in terms of health care.
Sir, if I may, sir, I'm asking about a specific question of Vermont.
Sure,
and here it was, they had a plan to impose a single or implement a single-payer health care system in Vermont, and the Democratic governor ended up dropping it.
Well, for a variety of reasons, he did. But the United States remains the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all of our people, and yet we are spending almost twice as much per capita. We have a massively dysfunctional health care system, and I do believe in a Medicare for all single-payer system. Whether a small state like Vermont can lead the nation, which I certainly hope we will, or whether it's California or some other state, at the end of the day, we need a cost-effective, high-quality health care system guaranteeing health care to all of our people as a right.
All right.
I do believe that. We don't have it now.
I want to get as much as we can into this, sir. You also want a 50% cut in military spending at a time when ISIS and Al-Qaeda are on the march.
What percent cut, Chris?
50.
I'm sorry, no, I don't. What I do believe is that there is an enormous waste in the military, in the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense can't even audit itself. Massive cost. Of course, ISIS is a terrible organization that has to be defeated, and of course we need a strong military. But just as with every other agency of government, you know what? The military also has got to get rid of waste and fraud and cost overruns. So I want a strong military, but I do not believe, among other things, that without an audit, we should be throwing tens of billions of dollars more into the Department of Defense.
Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. So Hillary Clinton's way too conservative for you, right, Senator?
I would say she's way too conservative, given the problems that this country faces, which is a massive level of wealth and income inequality, a collapsing middle class, and the need to create millions of jobs. The question is, what candidate is out there prepared to deliver for the American working people?
Okay. But it's really tough for a person like Hillary Clinton, who's getting $250,000 a pop for a speech, and who made an enormous amount of money off some kind of commodities trade way back in Arkansas. I think she invested $1,000 and came away with $100,000. It's got to be pretty hard for her to attack the financial system and high-wage earners, is it not?
Well, it may be, but it's hard for any of the candidates out there who today are receiving huge amounts of money from the very wealthiest people in this country.
Well, but that describes her to a T. She's receiving huge amounts of money, and not only from people in America, but from Saudi Arabia and you know, God knows where.
But Bill, let's be fair. It is all candidates out there who are now using super PACs because of this disastrous Citizens United decision. The real question, it's not just Hillary and it's not just the Republican candidates. Can a candidate run for president of the United States today trying to represent working families? Can you run a decent campaign, or must you be dependent on billionaires?
No, you can, but you have to be charismatic. You have to be grassroots, because the folks will donate to somebody they believe in. I mean, that's what a few candidates are trying to do now, who don't have, you know, the cachet connections to raise the money. Look, I don't like the money either. But what I'm trying to tell you is, in the Democratic Party, of which you're a member.
No, I'm an independent, Bill.
Yeah, but you caucus with them, all right?
I caucus with the Democrats,
right.
Yes.
Okay. You got a big problem here. If you're going to attack the financial system, the bankers and the fat cats, you're using a person who's exploited the financial system and who is a fat cat to do it. That's not going to fly.
All right. Well, look, here's the situation. I voted against the Wall Street bailout. I happen to think that the concentration of ownership on Wall Street where you have 6 financial institutions having almost $10 trillion in assets, is very dangerous for this country. I think we need to break them up. And if you're asking me, how many candidates have the guts to say we got to break up these huge Wall Street firms? That's a good question.
No,
I don't know
none
of
of
anybody
them.
else who's thinking of running.
There's nobody
I
on.
do.
There's nobody
I
on the.
do.
Well, then you got to run, because nobody on the grid right now is going to go that far. You know, Teddy Roosevelt did a little bit of what you're suggesting.
Yes.
And I think
that's right.
If you would present it in a way that it isn't the government running the economy, that you might get a hearing on it. But unfortunately, you know, socialists, and you're one of those, want the government to run the economy.
I'm a democratic socialist.
Yeah. And socialists want the government to run the economy.
One second. All right. First of all, let me agree with you and then disagree with you. If Teddy Roosevelt were alive today, Roosevelt, a good Republican, he would break up these huge financial institutions on Wall Street and a lot of other industries as well, because we have a huge concentration of ownership in this country that is very dangerous. Second point, as a democratic socialist, whose view is similar to many governments throughout Europe, no, I do not believe government should control everything. But I do believe that health care should be a right of all people. I do believe that college education should be affordable to all people. And I do believe that the United States Congress should not be by a handful of billionaires.
But that's a big government vision, and that's where you and I pretty much disagree. But look, you've been firm to your, and the good people of Vermont have elected you, so there you are. Now, Iran.
Well, Bill, I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you to be my vice presidential candidate. That's it.
Well, if you might have a chance if you did. Now, Iran. All right.
Yeah.
The deal is a bad deal for us. You know that. Everybody who can read knows that.
No, I don't know that.
You really believe? Do you really trust the mullahs? Do you really trust them not to cheat? Do you really? Well, they're saying, Senator, we're not going to let you inspect our military installations. Okay, come on. Come on.
All right, look, this is what, Bill, this is what you got. You got a situation where I don't trust Iran, the Iranians don't trust the United States. This agreement is not being built on trust.
Well, what is it being built on?
Verification.
But if they say they're not going to let... Look, the mullah came out, Khomeini came out last week, says we're not going to let you inspect our military installations, Senator. You heard him.
All right. Yeah, but the military installations, what we will inspect is whether or not they have a capability of moving toward a nuclear weapon.
How would you know if you can't inspect the military installations where they hide the stuff? How would you know?
Well, but you're assuming that they hide themselves. I am assuming that we're going to have an agreement.
I'm assuming that.
I am. All right, well, Bill, we can, argue till the cows come home. Here's the bottom line to me. All right. I voted against the war in Iraq because I thought it would do what it did, destabilize the region. What we need to do is to make sure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. But I got to tell you, I am not pleased that we have a number of my colleagues here who think they're going to war against Iran would be okay. It would not be okay. So I support
last resort.
But the president is... I'm sorry?
It's a last resort, but it has to be in play if you are definitely going to stop them. But
it's a horrible resort, and we have to do everything that we can to prevent that.
All right, but we can't be foolish, and that's what I think everybody wants, a deal that would be good for the free world. Senator, thanks very much. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Next